Okay, we're going to take a look at this first exercise. Consider the algebraic expression 4x squared plus 1. Describe the operations occurring within this expression and the order within which they occur. So when you look at this, you need to think 4 times x plus 1. All right, so we're squaring this value, so it means we're multiplying x times x, or if we're going to evaluate that, that's where we're going to start. Okay, so that's what we need to think about, 4 times x plus 1. This needs to be evaluated first, and then we're going to add our number. All right, this is going to be evaluated first, and then we're going to add our number. So you can see if x equals -3, we're going to say 4 times x squared, and then we're going to add 1 to it. All right, so now if I substitute in -3, okay, what has to happen first is I have to evaluate that -3 squared first. Okay, so use the negative button, and then 3, and then I square it, and look what happens. It becomes -9. All right, so in your calculator, we have to make sure that we substitute parentheses for our value, because what that's going to tell you is we're going to take -3 times -3, which is +9. So whenever you're using your calculator, make sure you use parentheses. So we've got 4 times 9 plus 1. Now, whenever you have just multiplication and addition, we're going to multiply or divide first. So we're going to do 4 times 9, which is 36. And then you're going to end with addition, which is going to give us a value of 37. Okay? Now, it says do not use your calculator. Always use your calculator, especially to double check. Okay? A lot of you, if you're very good STEAM people, you really want to try doing things without your calculator, but your calculator is a wonderful tool. Okay? So in expressions, really what we were saying is just that there's no equal signs. Okay? Expressions really literally means a number. Okay, so this right here, this is just a number. Okay, and what is that number? Well, let's figure it out if x is 3, if our unknown is 3. So I would write 4x plus 3 divided by x to the third power minus 7. And notice how I wrote that before I even substituted it in. So now I'm going to substitute a 3 here and then a 3 here. And now, well, this is complex. So we're going to start with what can we evaluate first. First, I'm going to evaluate the powers. Okay, so 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Okay, if you're not sure, again, use your calculator to double check. 3 raised to the third power is 27, or you can write 3 times 3 times 3 and also get 27. And the next thing I'm going to evaluate is the 4 times 3. So on the bottom now, I've got 27 minus 7. And on the top, 4 times 3 is 12. Now I can evaluate the top, evaluate the bottom. 12 plus 3 is 15. And then 27 minus 7 is 20. And now we're going to simplify here. All right, how would I simplify 15 over 20? Well, you got to find the factors of 15 and then the factors of 20. So 1, 3, 5, and 15. And then here we've got 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. So what is the highest value that goes into both of those numbers? 5 goes into both of those numbers. So we're going to divide by 5 to simplify it. So I've got 3, and then divide by 5 to simplify it, and then I've got 4. So that's going to be 3/4. Again, use your calculator to check, right? What is 15 divided by 20? If it pops out a decimal, math into a fraction. Turn it into a fraction. There you go, 3/4. And then we got that correct. Okay? So if you enter this directly into your calculator, right? If I try to do this in our calculator, if I've got 4 times 3 and then plus 3, because that's what's on the top, and then I do divided by 3 raised to the third power minus 7. If I just enter this, whoops, let me fix that real quick. But if I just enter this directly into my calculator like that, what's going to happen is it's going to cause me an error because our calculator is going to read it a little bit differently. What your calculator is going to do is just deal with this and keep this completely separate, right? and then it'll keep this completely separate. Okay, so what it's going to do first is do 3 to the third power, and then this is going to turn into 3 over 27, which is not what we want. Okay, what we need to make sure that we do is we need to make sure that that is all together in the numerator and that is all together in the denominator, right? When we have a big fraction like this, we have to keep everything together in the top and everything together in the bottom. Okay, moving on. Some other common algebraic expressions that we're going to be running into are absolute value. Okay, and what absolute value means is the distance from zero. The distance from zero. And what do we mean by that? Well, what do we mean by that? We know that, like, let's say I've got -8, and let's say I've got 8, and let's say I've got 0 right here. Okay, so the absolute value of -8 is 8, and the absolute value of 8 is 8. And why do we know that that's true? It's because we are 8 steps away from 0, even though it's negative. And if it's positive, it's very easy. It's pretty straightforward. That's 8 spaces from 0. Okay, so if we look at this, is the absolute value of x minus 8 plus 2 the same as the absolute value of x plus 10, right? So how can we check this? Well, let's try. Let's just pick a number and see if a nice, easy number works. Okay, a nice, easy number for me to check out would be 0. So if I do 0 minus 8, and I take the absolute value of that, plus 2, is it the same as the absolute value of 0 plus 10? So I've got the absolute value of -8 plus 2 is equal to the absolute value of 0 plus 10. So I've got 8 plus 2 equals 0 plus 10. Is 10 equal to 10? Yeah, that works. In this case, it absolutely works, right? Now, if I try another number, let's try another number like 1. So I would do the absolute value of 1 minus 8 plus 2. Is that the same as the absolute value of 1 plus 10? Let's check it out. 1 minus 8 is -7 plus 2 is equal to 1 plus 10. Is that true? Well, the absolute value of -7 is 7 plus 2, and the absolute value of 1 is 1 plus 10. Does 9 equal 11? It does not. So we have to be very careful with absolute value, because sometimes values will work and sometimes values won't work. So be very careful with that. Okay. Next one is look at this square root. We're going to be dealing with square roots a lot. So I've got the square root of 25 minus x squared. So this is a -3. So I've got the square root of 25 minus -3 times -3 is +9. So the square root of 16 is equal to 4. Okay, so that works, right? If I substitute in -3, it works. What happens if I substitute in 13? So I'm going to take the square root of 25 minus 13 squared. So if I'm going to go over here and type in 13 squared, I'm going to get 169. So I'm going to say the square root of 25 minus 169. Okay, 25 minus 169 gives us a value of -144. So the square root of -144. Now that's a problem. If I try my calculator, the square root of -144, if I try to do that on my calculator, oh, it's going to say non-real answer or calculator error. And why is that the case? Well, remember, square roots is a number times itself, right? So 12 times 12 is 144. And then -12 times -12 is also 144. So there's no way to get to -144 using the same number. Okay, so you have to be careful with square roots and then absolute value. They get a little tricky when you're evaluating those expressions. Okay? All right, last but not least here, if I have an x value equal to 2, and we're going to be working with some complex polynomials quite a bit later, right? If I want to find out what this value is, in our calculator, we're going to use the alpha y equals trick. Okay, so I've hit the alpha button and then the y equals button. Right up here, it's just a little symbol. It's n over d, the numerator over denominator. So you can just type that in. Up in your calculator will come that expression. All right, so now if I'm evaluating it 2, I would say the square root of 4 times parenthesis 2 squared. Let me get that 4 in there. 4 times parenthesis 2 squared plus 2 times 2 and then I'm going to get a plus 5. Now notice how everything is underneath the square root. In my calculator, it's colored, so my calculator is a little bit different. But notice how everything is underneath the square root. So if I hit the right button, I come out of the square root, and I hit the right button again, then I'll go down to the denominator, and I'll type in the number 10. So now it's exactly what we want. We hit enter, and we get 0.5. Now 0.5, you should know, is equivalent to 1/2. But if you're not sure, math button, and turn it into a fraction, and hit enter, and your calculator will do it for you. Okay? Here are some important notes, calculator tricks that are going to be helpful. Square root is second x squared. All right, that's going to give you the square root button. And to create a fraction, we're going to do alpha y equals. And then to simplify a fraction, it's math, enter, enter. And then we're going to talk about absolute value in another lesson. Okay? Hope all is well, y'all. If you have any questions, stop by office hours. Good luck.